Sorry, I was going to get Mickey to do it for me. And welcome to today's guest. It's Christina Leo. Sorry, if I can. We're online. We're online. This is just faffing.
It's 7:15.
There we go. That's what you pay for an iWatch, just so it can talk to you and tell you the time.
Really? And no Mickey Mouse voice?
Yeah, it's
okay.
It is actually Mickey Mouse.
I see it.
It's well worth buying an expensive watch just to put a Mickey Mouse face on it that you could probably get for like 20 quid or something. So, yep, with chalk, added higher production values for season 2, and you get your own. Now that might look backwards to you.
Magnets, I love it. Oh my god, I remember those from me.
It's
the letter magnets. Yeah.
And just to prove they are. Look, we could actually play anagrams, but we won't do. So, hello, Christina.
We have too much else to talk about.
Yes, we have. We do have a hard finish, so do shut me up. How are you? I haven't seen you since
ages.
Since the Christmas party.
Oh my word! And that was super brief.
Yeah.
There were so many people, and we had so many things going on, and it was all just like, hey, I'll catch up with you later, and never happened.
I didn't see you till I was leaving. I was leaving to get onto the bus to get back to Paddington, and I was just waiting for the next one. I didn't see you all leave. I've missed loads of people. But how are you? How's your lockdown?
It's not been terrible. I definitely am missing sailing. I'm missing other humans. Contact with other humans besides on the screen. I mean, we've got a good group of girls that we get together and we chat daily. So it's not like there's no support at all, but it is different. It's for being such a people person, and I miss human contact. So, and when you go outside, it's weird because you're like, oh, I don't want to get too close, and I don't know. It's just an adjustment. I wonder how little kids are doing. What do you like? How are kids living through this? With like, oh no, you can't touch people. You can't hug. You can't say. No, we can't even go outside. It's just it's weird times. And then I think if something happened to my parents who are still back in the States in Nashville, there's nothing I can do. I can't. Before it's been like, oh yeah, I'll be on a plane, I'll be there in 8 hours, no big deal. Now it's like, nope, sorry, can't come. I stay in contact with them. Thank God for Teams and WhatsApp and whatever, but it's not. It kind of, you push through it, but it weighs on your brain in the back of your head in a weird way, and it only comes up every once in a while when you're like, my dad's kind of not exactly well right now, and there's not anything I can do about this. So you just figure it out as you go. Thankfully I'm employed, still have a paycheck. So that's the big thing.
I mean, people. I normally ask people to sort of introduce themselves, and we sort of jumped in. But we both work for the same small software house in Seattle.
We do.
We've known
each other for a while now.
Yes, we've known it.
A bit.
Yes. So I think I experienced you probably in your. Oh, obviously. What are you drinking? So Geeks on Screens.
I'm drinking Rooibos tea.
Okay, and your SQL Bits mug?
In my SQL Bits mug.
So I'm
on 2016 launch mission.
And you've got a nice standing desk. Is that a self-made standing desk, or is that?
It is IKEA.
Oh.
IKEA. Got the two trestles, and then a glass workbench glass top to go on top of the trestles. The trestles are raised up as high as they can go. And then I've got my laptop I've got a laptop stand and my keyboard and mouse all on these. Oh, I don't know if I can actually show. It's like black poles with clamps that clamp down. So I've got two massive monitors on Visa mounts, and then my laptop and my keyboard. Just so it's not very flexible. I can't like stand up and sit down at will, but it's served me well since since I moved to Boston. What was that, 2012? So this desk has gone from Boston to the Netherlands to the UK with me.
So you're not one of these new people who just, you fly by night. Oh, I've just got a new standing desk. You've had this for a long time.
Yeah, kind of old school.
Yeah.
It's good for you though to stand up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I could stand up, but you would just see my belly, so it probably wouldn't be that great. I've been trying to work out if I can do it in a very kind of like just get some bricks or get something, a stool.
I would love to be honest. I would love to have one of the expensive pneumatic go up and down ones, but maybe it's just that I'm frugal. Make do with what I can. But I'm proud of it. The thing is, it's in my lounge because I only have a 2-bedroom flat, or what am I saying? 1-bedroom flat. The bedroom and the lounge. Fortunately, it's big enough that I've got space for the couch and my desk, and the big 36-inch monitor doubles as a TV for the rare times that I watch it. But it's all good. God, it started to pour rain outside. Is it raining up where you are?
No, it has been raining over the last few days. But
I'm going to have to close the window because it's coming in like. It's
okay, all right. Okay.
Right back.
Yeah. No. So while Christina goes to waterproof her house, I'm going to ask her about. Okay. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, I mean, I know you from sailing, rugby, and one of your rugby injuries where you had a nice shiner, a black eye.
I had a shiner of note, did I?
Yeah. I remember talking to you.
My rugby career.
And you kept saying that people kept coming up to you and going, "Are you all right? Are you in a safe space?" Because
there's nothing to talk about. No.
Yeah. if you need somewhere to stay,
spread to my cheekbone. That's all.
And
it still gets sore.
Does it? And when I have lots of sinus pressure build up, it still gets sore from the. Oh.
Anyway.
And weight training with kettlebells?
Yeah, that's been going on since 2010, and I've got a whole house full of them, fortunately. So that's why I've been able to keep up. My trainer has been great about doing Skype sessions and been able to keep up with that over the lockdown, which has been probably the only thing that's kept me sane because I'm not moving. I'm used to walking 10Ks a day with getting to clients and whatnot, and then all the other stuff that I was doing, and now all of a sudden it's just like, whew, but on the couch and we're not moving.
So
yeah.
that must be really hard, but especially with sailing where you've got a group of people, you're going out in all weathers, and you've got you've got a good team that you get very close with, I imagine.
It's your family after a while, absolutely.
And I was actually going to mention that I mentioned before we came online, maybe you should hide those drink bottles because it does look like you might have a bit of a problem, but they're not, are they?
No, they're not drink bottles. So I had this weird started years ago when I owned a company that did data management software. That we wrote data management software for medical laboratories, and I was on Waikiki Beach in December at the Honolulu Blood Bank. I can't even think what year this was now. This was early 2000s. And I had this wild hair to get a little bit of water, a little bit of sand, and thought, okay, this will make a good memento. I'll find a bottle to stick it in. And my sister had come with me. And so I made one for her and I made one for myself. And I was able to find, now I've lost my train of thought. There was a volcano on Waikiki Beach that did their own soda bottling like years ago. And so I found the antique bottle from I think it's Mountain. I'm going to have to look for it now. Diamond Head. That's what it's called.
Okay.
So it was Diamond Head bottling company that made soda. And so I ordered the bottles from an antique shop, and I put the sand and the water in and like sealed it off with some wax. And that's how it all started. So from there, I just expanded the collection with all the various beaches that I had visited. And there's one from SQL Saturday, Copenhagen, with when I went to see the Little Mermaid.
Okay.
The Little Mermaid statue.
Yeah.
So and they had their own brew or their own beer that they had brewed for everyone that year. So it was like, oh, well, okay, I'll just put that in that bottle then. So it's all been kind of an interesting combination of water and sand, and then trying to find the right vessel to contain it. But yeah, there's quite a few of them now.
And they don't go off? They don't get mouldy with the seawater and stuff? They're good?
It's interesting. Some of them get a bit of algae. Is that how I say it in this country? Like this one you can see is growing a little bit, but it's not gross. The one from Nairobi is I'm afraid to open that one. It's not. Yeah. No, that's not Nairobi. That's Lagos. It's it's a bit we just leave that one capped.
Yeah, that looks like really badly gone off iron brew.
I've got Faroe Islands, and I've got the right where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Indian Ocean, the bottom of South Africa at Boulders Beach. I've got water from there. Stuff from all over the States, stuff from Italy, stuff from Faroe Islands from Portugal. No, it's a bizarre collection. But
I'm hoping from the exotic Isle of Wight as well.
Oh, and yes, from Gurnard Beach. And the bottle came from the sand, and the water came from Gurnard Beach. When I was staying at Pete Newland's house, I was doing my first Cows Week, and the bottle came from one of like the Oxfam like charity shops on the island. So yeah, Cows Week. So
right, tell me about sailing, right? Because
okay, what time is it? Right, we've got 30 minutes. What do you want to know? Where do you want to start?
Okay, right. So you got port, you got starboard, you got stern, right? So how did you get into it? Oh, please don't spit it everywhere. I mean, please spit it. I mean, that would be quite amusing.
I'm better. I get left and right confused completely all the time. But somebody says port or starboard, I know exactly. It's fine. I don't know why the different words, but yeah, port's the left side of the boat, starboard's the right side of the boat. Yeah. Bow's the pointy end, stern's at the back.
But what if you're facing the other direction? Is port's always one side of the boat, isn't it? Can't be always the left.
So if you're at the bow looking back at the driver, this is still port.
The driver. Don't you? I mean, I don't want to correct. I don't want to correct you, or sound like. But isn't that the captain? Or am I got that wrong?
Always.
Oh no! Oh, faux pas. Because I was going to talk about
the skipper of the boat. Actually, if they're a good skipper, they've delegated jobs to their crew members who are the best at each of those positions, and their job's just to manage, make sure everything's okay, make sure everybody's got what they need, make sure we're going in the right direction. So what can we do to make the boat go faster?
The skipper's like the project manager.
Yeah, very much so.
But the captain is the person who physically owns the boat?
There's a skipper in the... Okay, well, I'm thinking of smaller yachts, like, 40 foot's not exactly a small yacht, but anyway, 40 foot and under, you would, skipper and captain's kind of synonymous.
Oh, okay.
You get bigger than that, or military boats, that's a whole different thing, and I can't really speak to that. But this pretty much on the size boats that I sail on and race on, the buck stops with the skipper. Right. He's responsible for making sure that everybody's safe and that we've made the right decision. And if he's a good skipper, could jump into any one of those roles. He could drive, he could deal with the mast, he could deal with the bow, he could deal with navigation. You hope that, somebody gets seasick, like when we did Fastnet last year. You asked me how I started sailing.
Yeah.
Go back up and go to the beginning.
I mean, we can. I mean, I'll let you carry on, but we could just because for people like me who know nothing, Fastnet means nothing. So let's start in the very beginning.
Okay.
What was the first time you got onto a boat? Is boat the right term?
So as a kid, I grew up, in Nashville. We had loads of lakes, and I grew up on water skis behind, 20 foot, 24 foot open bow power boats. And so I've always had a love for the water, and just I swam before I walked, is according to my mother. So that just kind of came all with the package. So I had a boat when I lived in Nashville that I kept on the lake, and got for 5 or 6 years, the last 5 or 6 years that I was in Nashville. And then when I moved to Boston, I thought, hey, now's a great time to learn to sail. But I was traveling too much, going back and forth all over the place, and never made it happen. And then there was the Netherlands, and then there was South Africa, and then I was in London, and just all kinds of things going on. And then finally, bank holiday, second bank holiday in May of 2016. I was sitting around the house going, you know what? I've got to find something to do. I'm not just going to sit here and spend my bank holiday all by myself. So I had a wild hair and did a search for sailing trips, and came across a sailing school that was doing what they called a mile builder, which is to a channel crossing. Essentially, we were going from Portsmouth to Cherbourg, and the reason they call it a mile builder is because you need a certain number of miles on your logbook to progress through the training system. Okay. Where you want to do day skipper to coastal yachtmaster to ocean offshore yachtmaster, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so I thought, right, 325 quid, a weekend on the boat, I get a trip to France, get out of the house, here's my money. And then I rocked up in Gosport and stepped on the marina and was like, I'm home. Why have I left this behind for so long? So did my channel crossing, didn't have a lick of problem. I was like, oh my gosh, how does this work? What's going on here? It's like, oh, this is definitely something I want to learn more about. And so by July, I'd done my day skipper course, which includes navigation, because tidal waters here, you have to be, especially in the Solent, it's so busy. It's not like just be bopping around with, it's complicated. It can be complicated. So you learn how to navigate tidal waters, and you learn how to to victualize the boat, make sure everybody's got all their food, and you prepared for your crew. You've got 3 days, everybody's fed, and basic first aid, and like all sorts of, just training types of things. And finished my day skipper and thought, right, how am I going to do more sailing? Because this is fun. And I can't, that's, that I was up to 27. So I'd done like a couple of just one-off trips for cruising stuff that I found. People do meetups, or they'll sailing schools will advertise cruising trips. And so I did a couple of those. And then by 2017, I saw an ad for Cows Week that Pete Newlands, who is a former Olympic sailor, really incredible skipper. Just, you watch him at the helm, he looks like he was just born that way. He just came straight out of the bucket like that. But he was advertising spots on his boat for the Cows Week. And I'm like, oh, going to do this. This sounds like fun. I've got nothing else to do this August. Here I go. And that was my first experience inshore racing. And it was so intense, and I had no idea what I was doing. And there was a lot of boat Tourette's going on. Sorry, Pete, the whole week long. But about Thursday, when I was trying to help with a maneuver with the spinnaker, I had one part of it down, but I was missing the other part, and it could have caused damage to the boat, what I was doing, but I didn't realize that. And so all of a sudden, everybody's screaming at me. And I can hear from the back of the boat, I can hear Pete saying, "Tell her so she can understand. She learns fast." And everybody calmed down and started explaining things. And I was like 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I'm like, that was like the best compliment you could give me ever. So ended that week just thinking, this is something I want to do more of, and found the Night Owl crew via Facebook, who run, well, we've since sold our boat, but they ran their boat as a consortium. They'd all gathered together and bought the boat together, and it was a good deal. I sailed with them, raced with them for 2 years, and learned a ton. And we sold the boat just in time. We were going to downsize because half of our crew moved overseas, and some moved to Australia. Anyway, couldn't sail with the number of people that we had left. And so we put the boat on the market and expected it to not sell till January, and it went in November. And so now we're like, we've got no boat. Now what do we do? It turned out to be a good thing with all the COVID nonsense, because we're not paying for boat fees or anything. But with them, I did multiple Hamble Spring Series, Hamble Winter Series, like short races in the Solent in between Southampton and Isle of Wight. And then I got to, when I did Cows Week with Pete and his crew, they were all going off to Fastnet the week after. Fastnet Rock is a lighthouse off the coast of Ireland. Iconic race. It's one of the, I think it is the oldest offshore race in history. And it's like climbing Mount Everest for a sailor. It's got to be done, right? And all these guys were going off to Fastnet, and I said to myself, right, 2019, that's going to be my year. I'm going to do Fastnet. And did all my racing in 2018, built up my skills, learned what I needed to learn. And then the 2019 season, we did all our qualifying races, which basically meant like we did the Myth of Malum, where you go around Eddystone Rock. That was probably the longest one. That was 250 miles round trip. And then a couple of races back and forth to France. And then it was time for Fastnet, and essentially 4 days on the boat soaking wet. The sea kicking up, churning back and forth, and you're 3 hours on, 3 hours off, and you get really cozy with your crewmates. And you find out what you're made of, because when you have to get up in the middle of a watch and it's pitch black and it's pouring down rain, and somebody says, right, we've got 2 jibs on the deck, jibs being the head sails, you change sails as the speed of the wind increases or decreases. So we needed to drop from a bigger jib to a smaller jib because the storm was coming in, and we need to decrease the sail area. So we dropped the sail, but then something happened up front and it got all tangled, and we had to, anyway, it ended up being full of water. And you've got a big bag of water that water's heavy. Water's really heavy. So at the point that me and the navigator are on the front of the boat, while the mast and the bow guys are in the back resting because they're exhausted from wrestling with this. And Toby turns around, looks back to me, he goes, do you have any idea? I'm like, oh, maybe get Ed to shift the boat the other way a little bit so some of the water will run out. And this, boom, a big wave comes over, and you're like underwater, and it's like you come up, and Toby's like, you still with us? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. What now? But I'm all good. And you just have to ignore it all and figure out how to deal with the sail.
So are you
And you
strapped?
have to sail back, and then you
Are you tied
go
on?
down.
Are you tied onto the
Sorry?
boat? Are you tied onto the boat?
Yes, you're tied on. You got a life vest on. You're tied on.
Okay,
You're
right.
lashed on. It's but even though you're tied on, so that same race, as we finally get to Fastnet Rock, which is like the pinnacle, right? We're there. We've made it. We still have a whole long way to go to get back to get home. But there's Fastnet Rock, and it's almost midnight. It was 12:43:55 or 23:43:55, as I recall. And I'm on the low side of the boat on the winch trying to get the head sail in, because we had to. There's what they call traffic separation schemes, and because the big boats have to go through. So they've got the water bordered off, essentially. So you have to make sure that you go across it at right angles. So when the big boats come, they'll see you. So we had to be very careful about how we went around. It was a navigational exercise, but it was also, the weather was shit. It was absolutely pouring down rain and bashing us back and forth. And as we go, just get ready to do our tack to go around the rock, our boat had 2 steering wheels. So we've got steering columns that come up on both sides of the deck. So as the boat's heeled over, you can stand on the high side and steer.
Oh, okay, right.
And then you tack again, you go to the other steering wheel, right? So Ed, our fearless skipper, he was not meant to be driving the whole race, but ended up doing so because the guy that was supposed to be our lead driver was seasick the whole way. We were sailing light-handed. That's a whole other story. Anyway, so Ed's on the helm. I'm on the winch trying to get the jib in because we had just tacked, and I'm buckled in because it's dark and it's raining, and I'm grinding for all that I'm worth. And then all of a sudden this twang goes, and the next thing I know, I am swimming. I've got the life lines at my back. I'm not off the boat, but I'm underwater. I can hear Nikki, our crew boss, shouting at me, "Christina, get back in the boat." And I'm looking at Nikki, I am in the boat. I'm holding on to the winch handle for dear life. But like all of this is happening, like it was slow-mo. And all I knew was like, all right, I'm okay. I'm in the boat. Yes, I'm covered in water, but I'm secured. And I'm still trying to get the jib in. And I can hear Ed go, "Right, let's make sure we know where the emergency rudder is located. Let's see if we've still got steering on the other side." He's going through all of the super calm, how do we troubleshoot this? What's the worst case scenario? Fortunately, it was just the linkage chain on the one steering column. It wasn't the rudder. We were panicked that the rudder had broken because that would have been, we'd have had to go into Ireland and stop. Right. So he moved to the other. All the water finally came off of me. Nikki, calm down because I'm still on the boat. We got the rest of the way around the rock. And Ed goes, "Right, we've still got steering on the port side. I think we're done racing. Let's just get her home safely." And everybody went, "We're on board with that." So then it turned into not how do we make the boat go faster and stay on course, but how do we just get home, keep everybody on the boat, not break anything else. But we finished. We didn't have to retire. And it was, by the time we pulled into Plymouth, we had the radio cranked and we're all up on the deck and everybody's dancing and singing and we're all doing our job still, but flew our big night owl kite into Plymouth Harbor, and you felt 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And then you get into the race arena, like they've got a little race village that's set up with bars and whatnot. I don't like Doom Bar beer, but that was the best Doom Bar I've ever had in my entire life after being 4 days on the boat, soaking wet and miserable, thinking, why am I doing this? And then we're all sitting around the table with the best beer I've ever drank in my entire life, and we all start swapping stories and hearing about the experience from everybody, because you're doing what you need to do to make the boat go. You're not sharing your experience, right? So as we're all sitting around the picnic table and then start to tell the events from our perspective, and people are like, oh no, and Nikki's like, I was sure you were overboard. And it's like, oh, okay, now I understand why they call this type 2 fun. Because it sucks while you're in the middle of it, but then you get done and you're like, oh no, when's the next one? So I've signed up for the Middle Sea Race in Malta in October, which is another 600-mile race. But this time it's on a Volvo 70, which is one of the big yachts that they do the Volvo ocean racing on. So it's going to be epic. I'm going to be miserable all 4 days. But the same kind of like, look what I just accomplished when you get done. And I don't know, I could talk about this all day, but you figure out how to dig deep. You figure out how to live on a 3-hour event horizon, because you're like, right, my watch is 3 hours long. I've just got to get through this. Then I can go sleep for 3 hours. And then I get up and do it all over again. You really, you minimize, you compartmentalize, you're absolutely present. There is nothing else you can be worried about except that one little bit. And then there's your team. You bond with the people that are like responsible for keeping you safe and that you have to work with, like me and Chris and Nick, having the three of us together, having to work in concert to get the sails up and get the sails down, get the sails back. And it just, I miss it.
Well, I mean, because I don't sail, I've got, my experience of boats is a rowboat, maybe, and the scene on the orca from Jaws, where they're going, look at this scar, I mean, that's all I've seen. Right? So, but for you to just be in charge of one area and not really get to talk to people because you're just doing your bit for 3 hours and going sleeping, that must be really tough mentally and exhausting. I mean, 4 days of 3 hours.
I mean, you are talking. You have to communicate because that's the only way you get but it's very, very structured and very there's not, I don't know. Sometimes when you're off watch and you're sat on the rail and you get to shoot the shit a little bit with each other, but you've always got one ear on the boat and what's going on and does that sound right? Does somebody need help? There's definitely a sense of community and a sense of communication, but I don't know. It's the only time I've ever done. I didn't do team sports as a kid. I was a swimmer. And my foray into tag rugby didn't end well. This is probably the first time ever that I worked as a unit with a group of people under an enormous amount of pressure, and all the stuff comes out, all the bad habits, all the there's nothing hidden. If you get snippy with people when you're tired and hungry, that comes out. And you learn to go, oof, I need to dial that back a bit, or yo, Chris, dude, you either need some rest or what's going on with you, because this is not. And so it's an interesting bonding experience as you just learn each other's personalities and accommodate one another. Nikki, who was our crew boss, got sick. Several of the people got seasick on that particular race. She had some kind of bug because she was running a fever, and it wasn't just seasickness. She was ill, and she comes up out of the companionway. She's just got her bra on and her pants, nothing else on, and she sticks her head up, and I'm like, Nikki, girl, you cannot come up here naked. She goes, I just needed to cool off running a fever. So you see people in like all states. There's no shame on the but then you're like, okay, actually, are you okay? What do we need to do? What do we need to make sure? Hey, go to bed. No. Don't you? I know you feel like you need to come up here and help, but you need to go to bed. So it's an interesting.
So how many people would be on that boat? So for that particular race?
We had 10. I'd have to go back and actually do a head count. I think it was 10. And so basically that means 5 on, 5 off for your sailing watches. Problem was we had one person that was down early and was down the whole race, and another person that hurt herself, and she was basically out of commission, even though she tried to help, but she was out for the race. So now we're down to 8. And then we had Nikki, who was sick through no fault of her own, who managed 12 hours later to come back miraculously through sheer will, I think. But it was an interesting, but you just figure it out. You go, right, this is what we got to deal with.
So
how do we make the best of it? And how do we make the boat go faster? No, but there's no room for anybody to sit down in the middle of the boat and cry.
Well, no. I mean, I imagine people do, but not for
there's some stories
not for very long
not
though.
On this race.
So, is there like a minimum crew you need to race? So, if not too many people got ill, you just go, right, let's just go back to shore.
Yeah, there would have been, because for that particular boat, we need somebody to drive. We need somebody on the head sail trim. We need somebody on main. Need somebody on mast. Need somebody on bow. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. And if you try to do any kind of sail change in rough weather, you just need more people. Period, because sails are heavy and stuff goes wrong. And so smaller boats you can sail with fewer people. You see a lot of double-handed. A lot of the folks that I know have done double-handed races. There's a famous one that goes to the Azores and back. And it's just 2 people. But you know what? I say that, and I go, you look at Hugo Boss. What is his? Not Ben Ainsley, but I can't believe I can't think of his name. But there are solo round the world sailors that race, but they've got their boats set up so they can do everything on their own. Yeah. So it just depends on how the size of the boat for one, how the boat's laid out for another, and how hardcore you are, I guess. Alex Thompson, that's his name, with Hugo Boss. It's I don't know about that whole solo around the world stuff. That sounds a little bit feels a bit too much like COVID lockdown.
That's almost like
having more fun.
That's almost like full circle. I mean, I guess there's a certain mental fortitude you need to be on a boat and to survive. And if you were alone, or if there were just 2 or 3 people, that's a whole different mental kind of situation to be in. You really got to be able to either tolerate people or get on with people really well. Yeah. Because when the pressure's on, people snap.
Learn to bite tongue.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And someone's shouting at you to do it. Well, you just get it done because you need to get it done, and you can have a chat afterwards. About, well, maybe if you weren't shouting so loudly, I could get on, or I couldn't hear you because I had, there was a 70-mile-an-hour headwind or whatever.
Yeah, dude, I was underwater. Sorry.
Yeah, I was impromptu fishing at the time. I would have
swimming on the bow of the boat.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't imagine that would happen, but I guess depending on the boat, that could happen. Yeah.
Fortunately, the water was relatively warm. Speaking for that time of year, but it was like you get dunked all of a sudden. Big old wave comes over your head and it's like surprises you. Mouth's full of salt water. You're shot. And like had it been really cold, that would have been even worse. I mean, so it was just you just got so much adrenaline going the whole time that it's hard to come off of, to be honest. I had a really hard time. I mean, I was exhausted when I got finished, and I slept for 2 days solid at the B&B in Plymouth. But then it was like, okay, what next? What next? What do we do next? Why am I just standing around? Like, what challenge? So this kind of enforced. I never thought of myself as an adrenaline junkie, but
well, said the girl who's got kettlebells. Yeah.
Don't jump out of planes, and boats don't really go that fast. But yeah, I think I might be.
Yeah, there are also things. There's also the water, which is pretty dangerous, and things in the water that might be dangerous as well.
Well, we only saw porpoises. We didn't see any sharks.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, sharks. It's going to be very, very rare. Shark attacks. I mean, we're more scared. It's like spiders. You're more scared of them than they are of you.
Yeah. They don't have poisonous spiders in England.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah, ours aren't. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can just imagine.
Huh?
I can just imagine you going, a bit like Crocodile Dundee. You call that a knife? You call that a spider?
When I grew up, we had brown recluse and black widows, and I remember seeing the first spider in England and like having a little, what kind of spider is it? And hearing a voice from the bottom of the stairs going, "There are no poisonous animals in this country. It's fine."
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll move into outside. But I went to Australia for my birthday in January, so I got to do a bit of travel before all of the lockdown stuff came, because my birthday's on Australia Day. And I went to see one of the girls that I sailed with. She had moved to Melbourne, so I had a place to stay, and that was my big birthday trip, was to 2 weeks in Australia. And I spent the whole time sailing and surfing. It was so much fun. I didn't want to come home. It was such fun. But I got tickled. But like, Australia, a country where everything wants to kill you.
Yeah. Well, you can die from sunstroke, from the sun's trying to kill you, everything. Yeah. Like it's
like 50. What is this 50 nonsense?
Yeah.
That's a good visit, though. Okay.
We've
got 2 minutes left.
We are 2 minutes. I think right. Let's do the nomination. Let's do that, and then let's finish up, because I know you've got to be. I've sent her a message on LinkedIn, but I don't know. I doubt she's seen it.
Okay, I'll send her a WhatsApp.
She's in Cambridge, isn't she? She's over here.
Yeah, she's moved. She and I can picture him clear as day. Her partner. This is terrible. I'm forgetting all my words tonight. But they moved over. They moved over just before lockdown started. They were in their house for like a week, and then everything closed. So
tell them this happens every year.
So yeah, I think she'd be. I'll send her a note. So
all right.
I can encourage her to join us.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for telling me. There's so much more you can tell me, because there were so many words I didn't understand. I didn't want to interrupt you. What? I
know. I did.
What?
You got me on a roll.
What's a head sail? Oh, my God. Okay. All right. There are different types of sail?
Yeah. Loads. All right. This was fun, Mark.
Yes. Well, we'll catch up at some other point, and maybe we'll come back on in season 3 or 4. And you can carry on where we left off.
I can tell you about the Middle Sea race.
Yes.
I have good stories from the Volvo 70.
Just don't die.
Hopefully I won't be having anybody shouting at me to get back in the boat.
Yeah. Yes. Stay a little bit dry.
No, that never happened.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Christina. Bye. All right. Bye.